Java. It seems that sometimes the sky really does fall down. Since orbital debris poses a threat to the Earth's population, it is now catalogued and the risk evaluated.
Currently, we estimate that there are about 36,000 objects orbiting the Earth. We can add the 30,000 or so objects that have already fallen back to Earth.
And they will stay there for some time. Since all rocket launches, including military operations, are monitored, it is relatively easy to know what is circling above our heads.
All the artificial objects in space, satellites and debris orbiting above our heads, represents a mass of around 9,000 tons. To give you an idea, the Eiffel Tower is 7,500 tons, so a bit more than that.
In the vast area that is space, an Eiffel Tower's worth of small scattered pieces is more like a cloud of dust. So, in order to show a representation of the debris, we need to enlarge them. In real life, the pieces are considerably smaller. The suburbs of our planet contain a mixture of working satellites surrounded by circulating waste. But the suburbs are nonetheless organized. Satellites around our Earth use 3 different orbits. Furthest from the Earth is geostationary orbit, a thin layer 22,000 miles away. Satellites in this orbit remain constantly above the same point on the equator and provide our telecommunications, telephone and computer link-ups, and television broadcasts. Each satellite is spaced an average of 40 miles apart. With space at a premium, satellites need to be removed when they have served their time. Their last fuel reserves are used to deorbit them to another area. Here, the satellite is moved higher to a graveyard orbit, further from Earth, where it will not interfere with anything. Medium Earth orbit, situated between 1,200 and 22,000 miles in altitude, is avoided. This vast zone is occupied by radio navigation satellites, like Galileo. If one of these satellites breaks down, it is placed into an intermediate orbit where it will not interfere with any others. But if it runs out of fuel, nothing can be done. Finally, the closest orbit to Earth is known as low Earth orbit and is situated below 1,200 miles in altitude. This is where the last 60 years of space exploration has left the most debris. And the only way of getting rid of debris in this area is to send it into Earth's atmosphere, where it disintegrates.
There are different areas on Earth where objects can re-enter with almost no risk because they are far from populations. For example, there is an area in the South Pacific which is very, very big, and where we tend to re-enter large objects.
If the satellite still has fuel, it is possible to control its movements in low, medium, and geostationary orbits, as long as it is still functioning. But some satellites can hurtle out of control, even if they still have fuel.
One of the problems we have with satellites is that from time to time they break down, and we don't know why. They worked on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and on Thursday, bam, broken. And we've had no warning. There's been no sign that anything was wrong.
Satellite operators are loath to talk about malfunctions for fear of losing credibility. Yet most failures are caused by nature interfering with safety measures.
When we analyze the cause of these malfunctions, it can, for example, be a result of a solar flare.
During solar storms, our sun releases huge amounts of energy that disperses electrically charged particles into space. Earth's electromagnetic field acts as a shield protecting us from particles, visible during the northern lights. But satellites are like sitting ducks. Solar radiation is capable of wiping out navigation systems. And despite being protected with high-tech gold foil, it is estimated that a dozen or so satellites are destroyed each year by solar flares, turning them into orbital debris.
Space is an infinite empty space with some junk moving around above our heads. And these objects pose two problems. First, when they are in orbit, they're there for a long time. For example, an object at an altitude of 600 miles will stay there for 1,000 or 2,000 years. Secondly, during the course of these 1,000 or 2,000 years, they are moving at speeds of 18,000 miles an hour. 18,000 miles an hour for 1,000 years is a lot, so the probability of crashing into something during that time is very high.
Until 2007, experts tracked around 12,000 large pieces of junk. But since then, 3 major events have caused the situation to degenerate. The most serious involved Cosmos 2251, a Russian satellite in low Earth orbit that suddenly stopped working. The Russians could no longer communicate with it and were unable to deorbit it to Earth. In a perpendicular trajectory at the same altitude, a brand new American satellite called Iridium 33 was in orbit. The impact sent debris flying in all directions. Around 2,500 pieces, larger than 3 inches, and many other smaller fragments were ejected into space, posing a threat to all the devices in low Earth orbit. This collision proves that an out-of-control object in low orbit is a danger to all working satellites. Another event worthy of Star Wars took place when China decided to deliberately destroy a weather satellite that was no longer in use, using a ballistic missile armed with an infrared seeker and a warhead. It was an arrogant show of strength by Chinese authorities, with no concern for the consequences. On the 15th of November 2021, the Russians returned fire with a Noodle missile. Its target was a decommissioned satellite called Cosmos 1408. The resulting explosion scattered 1,500 pieces of large debris into low orbit in all directions. These events were arrogant shows of strength by major powers, with no concern for the consequences.
Everybody is talking about the events caused by the Chinese and Russian governments destroying a satellite on purpose. We all now know that these types of events are the greatest source of a risk of collision to our satellites in space.
As a result, there are now more than 1 million pieces of debris larger than half an inch circling the Earth. And some of these pieces come not from satellites, but from rockets.
In the fuel tank of a normal rocket that takes satellites into orbit, you have one chamber with liquid oxygen and another with liquid nitrogen. And I'm sure you remember from school that when these two gases mix, it becomes nitrous oxide, and it explodes. And that's what happens again and again in space. Not all the fuel is used to the last drop. This reserve fuel mixes, and instead of having an intact upper level, you have 1,000 pieces of debris, which remain in orbit.
Like a pandemic, this junk proliferates and risks creating even more debris. This phenomenon is known as Kessler syndrome, in honor of the NASA consultant who described, analyzed, and quantified it.
We currently have enough objects in Earth orbit. Once every 10 years, we expect 2 objects to run together and create a major breakup.
Don Kessler proposed this scenario back in 1978. Since then, it has been proven multiple times.
Like the Cosmos-Iridium collision back in 2009. About every 5 years, we expect collisions between some large object and a large fragment to also produce some debris.
Don Kessler also predicted that the collisions would have a cascading effect where each collision increases the likelihood of further collisions.
The issue becomes when this happens, an object can come in and hit the satellite and produce a spray of particles that are very numerous in number for the smallest particles, that those can go on, and because they're traveling so fast, can damage spacecraft. Then you also produce about 100 big enough fragments that will go on and hit another satellite in the same way and break that satellite up. And so you have this slow cascading phenomena going on.
This theory was proven accurate in 1996, when debris from an Ariane rocket launched 10 years before crossed paths with a French military satellite called Cerise. Knocking out a 10-foot stabilization boom and causing Cerise to tumble out of control. This incident is just one example of such a chain reaction in space. Non-functioning satellites and rocket leftovers have created clouds of debris traveling around the world at 18,000 miles an hour, hitting working satellites and creating even more debris. This proliferation could endanger a huge range of activities on Earth. It's easy to forget that satellites are a major part of our daily lives.
We all expect to open our mobile phone and look for a place where we want to go and find the directions to get there. We use satellite positioning technology. In the same way, when we go on a trip, we withdraw money at an ATM in America, and we obtain that money thanks to satellite telecommunications that connect with our bank in Europe.
It's hard to imagine life without smartphones, bank cards, or GPS systems.
Nowadays, we wouldn't live long without satellites.
Yet the proliferation of debris risks compromising today's constantly diversifying satellite services. So all space agencies have to take serious risks each time they launch, including the European Space Agency.
If we are waiting for a situation where our uncertainty volume is completely empty, that would mean we could never launch. So believe it or not, we are launching despite of the possibility of having conjunctions with objects, because otherwise there would never be a green light for launch.
The risk is now proven and even quantified.
The odds of losing a satellite are 5%. Part of it is the risk of being hit by debris. The other parts are simple. There is complicated hardware that can break, causing the satellite to be lost. But the likelihood of losing a satellite can quickly reach 10 or 20% with the increase in orbital debris.